So I've wanted to do this video for a really long time now, for about a year, and I want to tell the story of my little girl Jessie Faith, who was born sleeping last year. I delivered her on the 27th of May 2017, but I think that she died on the 18th of May 2017. So yeah, this is going to be a story about her, and here I sit currently 41 weeks pregnant with my rainbow baby. But I think before she comes, I need to pay tribute to Jessie and her precious life, I just feel it's right to do this now. And I hope for anyone out there that's had a similar experience, that you can find some comfort in my story, just as I have found lots of comfort in all the stories that I have heard and watched and read about. So I'll backtrack. So my name's Cara, and I have 3 lovely children. My eldest is Gabriel Joel, he just turned 6, and I have Hannah, who's 4.5, and Abigail, who's just turned 3. And when Abigail was now, I don't remember how many months old she was coming up to 18 months, I think. We'd spoken about it a lot, myself and my husband Paul, and we knew that we definitely wanted to have a 4th child, and we'd had the first 3 in 3 years, and that was a little bit unexpected. They were, all 3 of them were surprise pregnancies. It just happened that way, and but this time we waited and had a bigger gap. So I wasn't pregnant at 8 or 9 months. I was 18 months after giving birth, and I was like, wow, I think this is the right time. Let's try it. It was Christmas time, 2016, and really excited about it all. And we got pregnant on the first try, and she was a Christmas Day conceived baby, and very excited. I just knew. I knew before I took the test in January. I just knew I was pregnant, and I was just really, really happy. It's the first time I had an experience of planning a baby, and then that to happen, and happen so quick as well. It was amazing. It was just wow. And myself and Paul, we just really felt, we knew already we were having a girl, and I was happy about that as well, because I love little girls. I love my son, but I really, really love my little girls, and I also find little girls a lot easier to manage. My son's quite high maintenance and quite, I think we clash because we've got the same personality, but he's absolutely lovely, but I have to work at our relationship a bit more than with my daughters. So took a pregnancy test, and just celebrations, really happy, just wow. Then I was like very impatient. I decided for the first time to do I'd found out about this DNA test that you could take at 9 weeks that would tell the gender of the baby. So I did that. So I took some pinpricks of my finger and sent that away to America, and for quite a lot of money. I think it was like 150. And then they send the results back within a few weeks, and they look for the male DNA. So if they haven't found male DNA, then you're having a girl. So they came back before my 12-week scan that I was having a girl. So we had the name Jessie before, because we were contemplating calling Abigail Jessie, but we didn't. I mean, Abigail's the perfect name for her. It just wouldn't, yeah. But so we called her Jessie, and then very quickly came up with the middle name Jessie Faith. So absolutely love that name, and we were both very happy. 12-week scan, absolutely perfect. Everything was fine. Healthy baby. low risk on Down syndrome and the others, so everything was great. And also it was amazing, the pregnancy. I didn't really feel that ill. I was not that hormonal for the first trimester. It was just like smooth sailing. Just so excited. Her due date was the 17th of September 2017. So she was going to be the oldest in her year. Even that was amazing as well, because I've got 2 summer babies already, and this baby's going to be a summer baby as well. Which does affect, I think, starting school, because in England we start school crazy young, 4 years old. And I was an August baby, and I just turned 4 when I started school, and it was just like, whoa, it's a bit too much. Anyway, so the children absolutely fell in love with her, like, quite quickly. As we named her, it's kind of like helps to bond. Hannah, so my second born, she in particularly really bonded with Jessie. So she was like every day kissing my tummy, even though I didn't really have a tummy that much in those early days. And she was like, Jessie, I love you, and can't wait to play with you, and all sorts of things. So we were all, as a family, very much looking forward and excited. And we booked a holiday in Israel. That's where my parents live. And we've never been on a family holiday before. And it was just like, yes, I can do that. And I'll be like, I was going to be like 22 weeks pregnant, so 22 and 23, was it? Or maybe 21 and 22. But I thought, it's okay, the pregnancy's going really well, I think I'll be okay, even in the heat. So we went for that in February, I think. So February, March. We booked that holiday. It was our first family holiday, first time being on a plane together. For the children as well, and yeah, so that was all booked. Then I know, so it was 4th baby, so you're supposed to kind of feel kicks quite a lot earlier on, but I didn't really feel any kicks. I felt one definite kick at 16 weeks, and I was like, oh, that's a kick, that's definitely a kick. Before I was kind of like, might just be a little gas bubble in my tummy. I couldn't tell. It was very, it was definitely not for sure. But that at 16 weeks I felt her kick. Then I went for my scan on my own, because Paul was looking after the other children. So I went for my 20-week scan on my own, and just expecting to go in and confirm the gender, and having three healthy pregnancies. I hadn't had a miscarriage before either. And I was expecting nothing. It wasn't going to be, no, they weren't going to tell me anything wrong, because it never had happened to me before. Wasn't expecting it. Was, yeah. So I went in, and then the lady, she was chatting for about a few minutes. Then she said, oh, and then she went quiet. And then she said, but she didn't say it in a heavy way at all. The way she said it was very nice and very upbeat. She said, I think we're going to have to send you for fetal specialist scan, because there are some issues with your baby. So we just need to check those out. So she listed those issues as 1, echogenic bowel, which is when they see bright spots on the bowel, which could mean nothing. It doesn't always mean anything, but it could mean something. So that was the first one. The second one was low amniotic fluid, very low. I think it was, they measure it, but it changes, it goes up and down, but I think it was like 2 millimeters or 2 something of fluid, and I think that it's supposed to be something around 7 or more at that gestation. So that was the second thing. The third thing was she was measuring a little bit on the small side, and the fourth thing was one of her kidneys was looking abnormal. So that was kind of shocking news to get, even though she said it in a very nice way. And then that was the end of the scan. Like, usually the anomaly scans are like half an hour, but it was about 5-6 minutes. Then they took me out of that room, and I went straight to a midwife, like a head midwife or a senior midwife, and she said, I'm going to call up the hospital. you couldn't have a fetal specialist at my hospital, so I had to go to a bigger hospital about 40 minutes away. So so she rang and made that appointment. It was a Friday I had the scan, so the earliest appointment would be the Monday. So she rang, and then she made the appointment, then she talked to me and she said, "So how are you feeling?" And I was like shocked, and I said, "I think I'm going to sneeze." Wait. Sorry. And then I said, "Well, what do you think?" And she said, "Well, the echogenic mal doesn't mean that much. The kidney doesn't also have to mean that much. It can, kidneys can just get better on their own, and it might not be as abnormal as they thought." But she said, "I would worry about the low fluid, because at this stage baby needs the fluid to be able to grow." And so when she said that, I just burst into tears. I was on my own as well, so it's like, I burst into tears, and I was really upset. So I came home. What did I phone? I think straight after the appointment, I phoned Paul, who was at home, and I said these things. He was quite quiet. That's his normal reaction, to be quiet when first getting news. Sorry, it's pollen with hay fever. I didn't have any hay fever last month at all. It was amazing. I usually have loads of hay fever in May, but nothing. But this month just come on me a little bit more. So Paul was quiet, and then I rang my mum, I think, as well. Told her. But I even though I cried at the shock, I kind of still remained upbeat, because I'm like, it's going to be fine. I think it'll be fine. And so and straight away started praying as well. Asking God, please heal anything that's wrong, if there is anything wrong. So that weekend was a little bit of stress and anxiety. I told my group, a circle of mums from church, and they were praying. And I also so I told other people, and they were praying as well. So on Monday I went on my own. People did offer to come with me. Paul couldn't, because we couldn't get any childcare, or we could, but it would have been awkward. I think Abigail really struggled at that stage with separation, my littlest. So I don't think she was going to be able to cope. I don't know the reason, but I thought it would be okay to go on my own. So, I mean, hindsight, it wouldn't. It would have been much better if Paul came with me, but he didn't. So, not because he didn't want to or anything, it's just because it was just awkward and childcare, and it was just a lot easier for him to just stay at home. So I went on my own. I went very early, so I wouldn't be late. Gave myself loads of time. I've never been to that hospital before. And I saw, so I went in for my scan. It was about an hour and a half of continual scanning. It was a really long appointment. So he didn't say much during the scan, but then at the end he did. And he said, he said he was very negative. Basically, his whole tone and everything was very, very negative. And he said, "Okay." I remember the first thing he said was, "Okay, small baby." And no fluid around baby, hardly. And he said, but one of her kidneys is not functioning at all. And so it was completely blocked up. And I said, "Oh, so what can be done about that?" He said it could sort itself out, or she could need an operation when she's born. But he sounded very negative, and he did touch on the subject then, after he took, before that, he then said in his opinion, he thought that she had a genetic or chromosomal abnormality, because in his extensive scanning he found that she had short long bones, so her arms and her legs were measuring shorter than they should have been, which is a Down syndrome marker, and also echogenic bowel is a Down syndrome marker. And he also thought perhaps cystic fibrosis as well. I'm not sure why, but that was easily decided with a test. So I had a blood test after that appointment, and and then Paul was going to have a blood test. But the only thing was that very next day, that was our flight out to Israel. That was our holiday. So I said to him, one of the first questions I asked, am I safe to fly? Can I fly? Is it going to affect the baby? And he said, nothing you do now will affect the outcome of this pregnancy. So, like, in hindsight, he was saying all sorts of things that basically saying that he didn't really think she was going to survive. But I didn't hear any of that because I was just like, no, my baby's going to be fine. I'm just going to pray, get everyone to pray with me. She's going to be absolutely great. She's, she's going to survive, and she's going to be better. And God's going to heal her, whatever it is. But it was quite scary hearing that your baby might have a genetic abnormality. That was really scary. And then when it came to him touching on the subject of termination, I did say, whatever's wrong with her, I'm not terminating this pregnancy. So I said that quite clearly on behalf of me and Paul, because I know that Paul's thoughts are the same. So then he said those things, and he said, he actually did say the phrase, I'm not expecting a miracle here, which kind of, like, for me, it was a bit of like, wow, that's great, because there will be a miracle. I was like, no, you're wrong, and I'm glad you said that, because that's given me even more, like, yes, come on, God can do this, it can be absolutely amazing miracle. But even though I was saying all these things and thinking all these things, it was still really difficult. And the minute the appointment was over and I had my blood test, I was in floods of tears. I couldn't, I had to wait in my car for about an hour to stop crying so I could drive safely. And it was, really difficult. I told Paul on the phone, and he didn't have a very good reaction at all. He was very angry. And like, he just went like quite, and he put the phone down on me because he just couldn't speak. So that was really difficult. I rang my mum and I told her, crying down the phone, and also just trying to decide whether we should go flying the next day. He was worried again about the amniotic fluid. He said babies can't, survive that much without the fluid, and there's virtually nothing around her. And I was just trying to, so I was saying, well, I don't really feel a kick. And sometimes if I do, I'm like not sure if it's a kick or not. I was only sure that one time at 16 weeks, definite kick. It was like a real boom, 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 boom. But then other times I really wasn't sure if she was moving that or not. So I came home, and it was a horrible afternoon. Me and Paul just got into an argument, and we were just not in a place, and he was saying, well, I'm not going, I don't want to fly out and I was like, well, we booked it all, it's non-refundable, sorry about that. And so basically we did decide later that evening that we would go, and having the reassurance from the specialist that even going wouldn't affect anything, I then was like googling like frantic crazy about these different things, and I had some of the measurements from my maternity notes as well, and the different things wrong, and I was googling them all, which was a bit scary, but I did. I'm like that. I just like to research everything to the ground to find out everything possible, to find, just to know. So basically, so I'd done that. I carried on doing that when we were away as well. I found the holiday very difficult. I wasn't happy. I was trying to remain positive. I was really, really trying to remain positive. But, every day was a bit of a roller coaster, and I was constantly like, can I feel again? And also, I'd read that you could affect the amniotic fluid if you drank lots. So I was drinking gallons and gallons and gallons of water every day, just to try really hard. It was the only thing that I could possibly do to help. But I mean, I did even ask him that at my appointment, and he said no, it won't affect anything. but I just thought, well, if I can do anything, I'll just do this. So, the ironic thing about this pregnancy was I was so careful. Other pregnancies, I hadn't been. Even the first pregnancy, I was on this medication that, because I didn't know I was pregnant for the first 4 weeks, and I'd been on this medication, which is not good to be. It was for sleeping. I'd come out of having ME and really severe insomnia, and so I was still on those tablets years later, even after I got better from ME. I was so, I mean, when I found out I was pregnant, on the very day I found out, I stopped taking them cold turkey. But it's still, I mean, I was on that, and then I think at 12 weeks I'd taken night nurse, and you're not supposed to take that because it contains chemical which can really affect the baby. I didn't know anything about that. So, like, throughout these different pregnancies, I'd done different things that weren't, you know, what you're supposed to do. But Jessie's pregnancy, I was absolutely, this is what I think, in hindsight, God used that to help me realise that I hadn't done anything wrong. Because I know that some people blame themselves when they lose their baby, and they think it's their fault. And I think I would have thought it was my fault if I had taken anything. I hadn't taken any medication at all the entire pregnancy, not even paracetamol. I've been eating really healthily. No caffeine, nothing. So, So in Israel it was difficult, it was very hot. It was also very difficult on the children. They'd never been away before, and all the routine disrupted, and they were still really little. On the 18th of May 2017, I felt a definite kick. So on the morning, was it the night before? I think it was the night before, actually, on the Wednesday. I felt the same thing I felt at 16 weeks, a real boom, 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 boom. But it carried on longer. It was like a collection of these kicks. And we went to the garden tomb, and we actually all prayed that God would heal Jessie, and we prayed resurrection power over her. So, I just felt really, that day, I had prayer in the evening as well from these two other people that were ministers, and I just felt this depression come over me, because as I hadn't said before, the reason why I knew I was pregnant with her was because I just felt this absolute beautiful peace come over me. And I'm a bit of a type A personality, a bit hyper and intense, and I like to do everything, and a bit perfectionistic. I like to do everything like tip top, and that I put pressure on myself, and then unfortunately I put pressure on my family, my children and my husband, which I know is wrong. But I just felt this beautiful peace come on me, and it stayed like that. That peace stayed with me the entire 22 plus 5 weeks until that day. So on that Thursday, the 18th of May, that's when that left completely. And it, obviously, you're not really thinking about it, but unconsciously, I really think that you do know what's happened. And that's then therefore where I think she died, because we came home the next day, we travelled home, and then that was a Friday. Then Saturday and Sunday I actually started, I worked on the Saturday. I'm a piano teacher, so I did loads of lessons, and I just felt absolutely awful. I just felt so depressed, like a horrible dark cloud, no peace. I felt really angry. I wanted to punch somebody, something, punch a ball. It was inexplainable. I didn't know what was going on. Then, when I was in Israel, I had, they said they were going to scan me every 4 weeks, the fetal specialist said, and just to keep an eye, and, that's what they said. But I said, I just really want to know if there's any change. I want to see anything. So I booked a scan for the Monday, so for 3 days after we came back. A private scan, so you have to pay for it, and it was an anomaly scan. And I went on my own. I thought, yes, I mean, I I had thought it's going to be good news, so I wasn't expecting any bad news. But I think unconsciously, this is all hindsight, so at the time I would have said, no, I'm going to go and she's going to have more amniotic fluid, she's going to have grown, she's going to maybe have gotten, maybe the echogenic bowel's not there anymore. So that was my hope, and that was my feelings when I booked the appointment. Obviously I went to the appointment on my own, and Paul stayed with the children again, and I was not expecting what happened at all. When I drove to the appointment, I just felt God say, there's going to be angels in the room with you. I thought, what? Why? Why would there be angels in the room with me? I just completely just put that out of my head. That was just like, what? What does that mean? What on earth does that mean? Anyway, I just ignored that and went into the scan, gave her my notes, and then within 10 seconds, she put the probe on my tummy, and then in 10 seconds, she just touched my arm and she said, I'm really sorry, there's no heartbeat. And I was like, immediately flooded into floods and floods of tears. And being on my own, it was just awful. And it was just really, really hard. She then said, I'm so sorry. And she then said, I'm going to leave the room, I'm going to go and sort some things out. You can make a phone call if you want. So I rang Paul, crying on the phone to him. I said, there's no heartbeat. And he went silent, and I can't remember if he cried. All I can remember is my own, what I was doing, and I couldn't stop crying. I then actually WhatsApped my mum, and I said, there's no heartbeat, can you fly back? So that's a horrible way for her to find out, I know, that's not nice at all, but that's what I did in the moment. Because then she'd come back in the room and she was saying, you have to go to hospital and deliver her. And I was like, well, I don't want to go straight away. I can't. And I just went a little bit hysterical then. I was like, no, I can't. And she was saying, oh no, you have to deliver it. Because I think she was worried that I was just going to go off and just not deal with it. So she was saying, there could be an infection, you need to get seen by doctors and midwives, and you're going to have to be induced and deliver this baby. And I just couldn't take it, I couldn't absorb it at all, but it did scare me a bit. So I was like, okay, I will. And she rang the hospital while I was there. She said, I've just scanned a woman at this clinic, this private clinic, and can't find the baby's heartbeat, and so you're going to need to see her. And then they said, well, you need to just come in. I said, well, we're going to have to have childcare. So I went home, somehow I just cried and went home, and me and Paul hugged when we got in. I can't really remember, it's really hazy. All I can remember is my amazing friend came over and babysat, actually for the whole evening, because we were in the hospital about 5 hours. So me and Paul went to the hospital, and they then brought in a scanner, and instead of being 10 seconds this time, they were a good 5 minutes. They just kept checking and doing, just moving different places, and then on her heart especially, and then they put the scanner away, and they said, I'm really sorry. Then they took my blood pressure, which was really high. It was like 170 over 110 or something, I don't know, but it was really high. So they were like, okay, we're going to have to give you medication. They kept taking it. It was continuously high, obviously. I just heard the worst news in the world, and they said, we're going to have to give you medication, take this down, and you can't leave until your blood pressure's down, because it's very dangerous. And they explained through the options and what was going to happen, and that they were going to give me a tablet to tell the body that I wasn't pregnant, because I didn't know this, that I could carry on being pregnant for another few months, possibly, and my body just carrying on, just holding on to her. And I didn't realise that. So they said, and in that point, you could get an infection. They said that it was wrong. The sonographer said you can't just get an infection straight away, but they said after a good 8 weeks you could. So they were saying, when do you want to be induced? So this was Monday, and my son's 5th birthday was Wednesday. So I was like, well, I need to celebrate my son's birthday. I'm not going to be in hospital while he has his birthday. So they said you could come in the day after, which is the 25th of May, and you can take a tablet, and the tablet you just take and you go straight home, and it works for 48 hours. Just lowers the hormones in the body. It tells the body you're not pregnant. It doesn't induce labour, but it just tells the body you're not pregnant. So, and that takes 48 hours. So we did that. And then we came back 2 days later, and in the morning they gave me oral tablets. They give you a strong dose because your baby it's not going to affect the baby. So they gave you really strong tablets. They kept giving it to me every 2 to 4 hours. I was in labour from the first time I took a tablet and I started contracting. I was in labour for about 8 hours. And what I really wanted was an epidural, which I've never had before in labour. And I said, I don't want to feel the pain. I just want an epidural. And the anaesthetist came in before they injected me, and they were like, well, we can't give it to you because you're not actually in labour yet. We can only give it to you when you're in labour. I coped with the contractions for 7 hours quite well. They weren't that bad. It wasn't that painful. It was the very last hour. It suddenly went from like 1 or 2 to 10. And it was just unbearable. And then I was like screaming. I was like, I need an epidural. I really want an epidural. And they were like, no, it's kind of too late now. And so I had morphine, which was awful because I'm not good with any opiates. I get so sick. I had Meptid twice in labour and I just got sick everywhere. It just makes me really sick. And I said, also in labour, I naturally get sick anyway. It's how my body handles it. So I need like anti-sickness. So they were giving me anti-sickness tablets the whole way through, but it didn't. So I had morphine and it just made me feel awful. And then they said during that hour, right at the end, they said that last hour, so it was about 9 o'clock at night, they said, do you want to go to the toilet? Because sometimes that can help get off the bed, move around, So I did. I said, I feel really sick, I don't want to move, but I did anyway, because they said, oh, it's best if you do. And then I threw up everywhere in the toilet, came back to the bed on my own, and then I sat on the bed, and then I felt this pop, felt my water's break, and then I felt her come out. And I'd already said I don't want to see her straight away, because I knew she had probably been passed away for 9-10 days. So I knew that she was going to look, wasn't going to be the same as if she'd just died, because I've heard that when babies just die and they come out pink and they look okay, but I was preparing for something quite upset, and they had said that she might be like really dark purple. And her face was very dark purple, even like nearly black. So I knew that I wanted to like gain my, psychologically I wanted to gain more bravery, more courage before I looked at her. And Paul had actually said he wasn't going to look at her at all. And I said, no, that's the wrong decision. You need to say goodbye. We need to see her. You need to have closure. But in the end, he looked at her straight away. So I didn't. He looked at her straight away, burst into tears. We both cried, probably the loudest we've ever cried. We cried together. We cuddled each other for about 4.5 hours. It was like horrific crying, really, really hard. And so we cried together, and then about half an hour later, I did look at her, and so these are her footprints. That's her hands and her feet, and it will say she died on the 27th of May. but that's when I delivered her. And then this is a picture of her hand that we took, which was actually, her hands and feet were quite a nice colour. It's kind of like shining a bit there. That's better. So they, in the hospital, one of the most amazing things is they had a whole wardrobe full of clothes for little premature babies, stillborns, and I was in a room where women deliver stillborns, the bereavement suite, and it had a cot, a lovely room, and like lots of pictures on the wall about letting go and loving your baby and different things. It was really comforting. And Paul left a few hours later to go home, because my parents were looking after the children, and Paul wanted to just get back so they would see him in the morning, because it was hard for them as well, and they didn't really know what was going on. I mean, we told them. I told them like the next day, I think. And yeah, I really didn't want to make this video so long. Maybe I should have done it in 2 parts. But yeah, so I stayed in the hospital for that night, and then the entire day, the next day, we left in the evening. So Paul came in the morning, back again, and got to spend lots of time with her, cuddle her, make videos of her, pictures of her, and that was hard enough. But the hardest part was then leaving the hospital. Leaving the hospital was the worst thing ever, because having 3 babies in hospital and then leaving, or 1 in the birth centre, and then leaving with your baby, that's the best part about it, and that's the best part about going through the pain. You know, I felt the pain of every contraction. The morphine did not help me at the end at all. The morphine just made me sick, and I just felt weird. But I didn't want to, but I felt that pain. And, you know, you get the prize at the end, you get the gift at the end, you get your lovely baby, you get to cuddle them and see their eyes. And I didn't see Jessie's eyes because her eyes were closed. So yeah, it was leaving the hospital, just floods of tears, both of us. But we actually supported each other so well, and the first few weeks we were so close. I just kind of locked myself in my room for about 3 weeks. I didn't go. I hardly did anything. Paul kind of had to take control of everything, the school runs, the meals, everything. And he did that really well. He organised the funeral, which I didn't want to even go to or even think about. I didn't want to, nothing. I couldn't. It was just too much. Yes. So I think I will make a follow-up video to this about, how I grieved and how the journey that I've been on for the last year of grief, including going through the anniversaries. So I will definitely do that. But I didn't want to make this video longer than 40 minutes, coming up to that now. So for anyone out there that's had a stillborn at any point, I mean, actually, she was delivered at 23 plus 6, 2 hours before 2 hours before midnight. So actually, if she had been delivered at 24 weeks, so 2 hours later, she would have been deemed a stillborn, and she would have had a death certificate. I also could have claimed for maternity allowance. Not that that's a big deal, but they see a person as a person after 24 weeks. But before that, it's a late miscarriage, which I found very upsetting at the time. And I've also heard other people say that that's upsetting as well, because that baby's a perfectly formed baby. She weighed 12 ounces. So she was small for her gestation, although that can be normal for some gestations at that time as well, just under a pound. And she was perfectly formed. She had all her fingers and toes, and she also had what we thought was like blonde hair. So she was quite fair, and she had like the eyebrows, fair eyebrows, and and she, despite her, it was wrong. The scan was wrong. She had very long limbs. She was very much like our daughter, our first daughter Hannah, who is very long and skinny. She's just got that really long body, and this is exactly what Jessie Faith looked like. So, you know, scans are not always right. And as I had actually been intuitive at the time and thought, well, this can't all be right, and there can be some error. There can be, you know, they don't know, they're not gods, they don't know everything. So doctors and obstetricians and fetal specialists. So yeah, so that's my story. Absolutely adore Jessie, and she's always my precious daughter, and we had a lovely funeral in the end. It really was special, and we've been back to the grave, and we've put things on her grave, and we did that at the 1 year anniversary of her death this year, and all as a family, and we talk about her nearly every day as a family with the children, and we talk about her, and we're never gonna stop doing that because she's part of our family. So this is my 5th baby, rainbow baby, and my 4th daughter, so I will always see myself as having 5 children. This is our last child, and I'll never, she's never, when people say how many children do you have, I get really kind of stuck with like, do I say 4 or do I say 5? And then if I say 5, sometimes they then ask, well, how old are your other children? And then I say 3 children's ages, and then I say, and we lost a little girl called Jessie, and then sometimes if they're like a semi-stranger, it can be a bit awkward from then on, because then everyone closes up, they don't know what to say, or they do know what to say, and some people are great and they're like, oh, I'm really sorry, and they carry on the conversation. They don't then suddenly get really scared and like, oh, I don't know what to say now, it's awkward. But so hopefully this video is helpful for someone else. It's also helpful for me to keep talking about it and talking about her, keeping her memory alive. Even though she's not on earth with us here, I'm still her mother, I'm still her mommy, she's still my daughter, and she will always be. So yes, I love her, and I'm about to have another baby who is a little girl, and she's completely different. You can even tell in the pregnancy. She's a different spirit, different personality. Everything is different about her, and she's going to be her own person. She's not going to be the one that came after Jessie. She's just going to be our little girl, and she hasn't replaced. It hasn't helped in any part of the grief at all. It hasn't replaced. She hasn't replaced Jessie in any way, shape, or form, and she won't. And yeah, it's important for her to grow up as an individual and not as some kind of replacement and some like consolation prize, because she's precious and she's a gift as well. But she will know about Jessie anyway, because we have these pictures all over our walls and we talk about her. So I just want to say goodbye, and if anyone wants to message me or talk about and make any comments, some nice comments, or talk about their loss, then I totally welcome that. And I'm not some kind of grieving expert or a counsellor, but I'll be happy to like listen to anybody. So I'm gonna cut this down now, nearly 45 minutes, and say goodbye. Bye.